Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to start putting together this Honda ATC 70 build. I have a clip. I just sprayed these frames right here. I did a primer, like 2 coats of primer, and then like 2 coats of paint on the frame and the axle. And then out here, painted up some of the rear suspension stuff. So both hubs. That holds the sprocket, is able to save that rear brake drum because you can't find those anywhere. So it's a little rough, but I painted it. It doesn't look so bad. There's the axle covers. So I think the first thing we're gonna do is put the bearings. I got all new bearings for this. So I got all balls steering stem bearings, I guess you'd call them. Converts these over to like this style bearing. The other ones are just like a little thing that sits in there. These are a lot better. Got the rear bearings for the rear axle. Just kind of confused why it came with 3 bearings. Guess we'll figure that out. And 2 new seals. Let's see if we'll be able to get these bearings in there without having to freeze them. I think they'll go in pretty easily, but we'll see. So, go ahead and start this. Steering stem bearing. Hopefully these are the right ones. It says for Z50, CRF50, XR70, 7580. I'm sure they are though. So a lot of people convert them over to these. So, let's go ahead and get started on this. Alright, so we're going to start with these steering stem bearings. They look like they're already pre-lubed. I might put a little bit of lube on the shaft of the forks. So today's goal is to get it rolling, get the whole axle back in there and that all assembled. So I think these are the same bearings, they're the same part numbers, 116, 117. So what's the top and what's the bottom? Let's open them up and take a look. Well, I couldn't find any real instructions online. Let's take these out of the plastic and see if I can figure out just by looking at them. Well, they look pretty similar. I'm gonna guess the smaller one's at the top and this one's the bottom. The forks. Yeah, that's definitely how they're probably gonna go. All right, so I got those bearings pressed on. Definitely should have put them in the freezer. That was my bad. Gonna go ahead finishing up installing these front forks. I am gonna reuse this clamp, kind of polished it up a little bit. Might take these bar clamps off and just spray paint them. They're pretty rough, but just trying to get this back together and get an idea of how it's gonna be. I gotta try to bend these forks back in because the old wheel was seized on here and I had to like pull them apart to get that off. So I've already tried it with a ratchet strap before. I'll just ratchet strap them in and then put the bolts in here. Not really exactly happy with this fork mount thing. It's, you know, it looks a little rough, but it's vintage, so definitely gonna reuse it. I wanted to get, you know, front suspension for these, but the cheapest set's like $600-700, and I've already put way too much money into this thing as it is. So this will be just fine. And if it looks horrible, I can always take it off and, you know, spray it black or whatever, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. So go ahead and get this put on and then we'll move on to the back. All right, I apologize for the rain noise. It's raining a little hard this morning. It's supposed to clear up soon. So we got the front steering stem bearings in. I had to ratchet strap these together to get this triple clamp mount or whatever you call it on there. I cleaned all the hardware up. I wire wheeled these. I polished out this, which I'll do it again. But it cleaned up really nice actually. So last night I put the rear axle bearings in the freezer, and we'll go ahead and install those now. I don't know why it came with 3. Maybe I just got an extra one and got lucky. Here's the new front hub bearings, so we'll put those in while they're cold. I'm going to start by putting the rear ones in the rear axle. So I'll pull that axle out, tip this thing on its side. I'm going to get a piece of cardboard to lay out, and then we'll press those bearings in. All right, so if I could go back, I would have put these in there, the rear axle bearings in first, but live and learn, right? So, like I said, I don't know why this came with 3. Maybe it's for different models of stuff, and some of them take 3. So, we'll go ahead and put this in there. Where's the dust cup? I'll find those. I'm gonna go ahead and lube these bearings up, and then seat them in there. Here's the new seals for them. So go and get some lube on these and then install them. All right, I think I left these bearings in the freezer too long, but we'll see for sure. I got a new front billet hub for this. So we'll go ahead and unwrap this and see if those bearings are too big, or too small, I mean. I didn't think that it would matter. I mean, it says in the instructions, put them in the freezer, but maybe I shrunk them too much. Hopefully they come back. So this is the new billet hub. Sweet. Pretty nice. All right, so it takes the factory size bearings. So we'll go ahead and push these in there. All right, to install these bearings, I'm gonna go ahead and carefully set this thing on its side. If I could go back, I would have installed all the bearings before I painted the frame, but I didn't. So, like I said before, I put these in the freezer overnight so they'd shrink up a little bit. So it'd be easier to press in there. So we'll go ahead and lay this on its side. Like that. Take a little bit of grease. Of course I would do that. Yeah, these are pretty frozen solid. I'm glad I did that. These are going to be a tight squeeze in there. Might be able to just kind of push them in. I'm going to put a little bit of lube in there. So there is a little like spacer thing that goes in the middle. I'm not putting that in yet. I'll put it in when I get this bearing in and put it on its other side. Excited to finally get this thing in a roller. Since I've had it, this thing's never rolled. That rear drum was seized up on it, so kind of a little exciting. Nice, I was able to just push that in by hand. Sweet. Make sure that's seated all the way in. Yeah, sweet. So yeah, it really does pay off to freeze your bearings overnight instead of fighting with them. Went right in there. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and flip this on the other side and then push in the other bearing. So I'm gonna go ahead and grease this up pretty well in here. I cleaned all the old grease out. I don't know if this is factory. This almost just looks like a piece of tube somebody cut. I don't know, somebody leave me a comment if that's factory or not. I'm sure it'll work just fine. Just gonna lube this thing up. Put it in there. Okay, set this guy in there. No, we're not going to get as lucky on this side as the other side. Let me grab a rubber mallet just to tap that in a little bit with. Got a little ways to go. All right, there we go. All right, so we got the seals in. Gonna go ahead and slide the axle through. Alright, there we go. There's the rear axle installed. Wasn't too bad at all. So I think the next thing we're going to do is put the drum on here. So I bought a new sprocket cover, and then I bought 4 of these little rubber things for the sprocket. These things are actually kind of expensive. There's a bunch of cheap, like, Chinese ones, but I bought the OEM ones because I figured if I'm going to spend 30 bucks, I'll get these. So go ahead and put these back in there. I was just looking at a schematic. I can't remember exactly how this whole rear end went back together, but I don't think it's that crucial as long as it seems to fit together right. All right, so I got the sprocket all finished up on this side. Got the brakes back installed down here. Go ahead and put the brake drum back on, and then we'll put the hubs on. All right, got the brake hub on there, our brake drum. Go ahead and put the actual, I guess you'd call them covers on there. That's what holds everything together in the back. Slide these guys on there. All right, so got the rear end all back together. Got the sprocket on there, brakes, brake hub. Still trying to figure out this brake system in the rear, how this is supposed to go. This looks broken, but then I looked at some schematics and it's not, so we'll hook that up later. Just want to get it rolling right now and see how it looks, so go ahead and put the rear tires on there now. So I don't know if I've showed these or not. Here's the new wheels and tires, Douglas wheels. So should make this thing look pretty good. So we got the rear tires on. Let's go ahead and do the front. I'll start by taking this axle out. I just set this in here. All right, so we got it to the rolling status, or roller status. I went ahead and threw the bars on there real quick. I just picked up these Pro Taper mini racer bars. Looks pretty good. Can't wait to see it done. So in the next video we'll go ahead and get the motor in, plastics, gas tank, all that stuff done. I have some issues with this front axle. I'm gonna have to get a new front axle. That's part of the reason why I'm not putting the motor in. Hopefully I can figure that out soon and we can get this thing finished. So I'm going to end this video. There will be a part 2. Thanks for watching.